Good evening. Stephen will be joining us in just a moment. Wanted to give you a little bit of background on the kind of thing that we were evaluating as we put the rubric together for disaster resiliency. This is something that needed to be on our horizon. I'm one of the fortunate ones that actually goes into the trenches. I lead a disaster response team for the Roddenberry Foundation, the Star Trek people. And we've done a very great deal of work in places that MSF also supports, and that the people who were competing for this award are specially focused on. The actual rubric says, Disaster Resilience Global Grand Challenge is to create a world with effective and efficient disaster risk reduction, emergency response, and rehabilitation so that they can save lives and livelihoods, minimize economic loss, and build resilience both globally and locally. Here to join me on the stage is Stephen Cornish from Médecins Sans Frontières in Toronto. Stephen, could you join me, please?
Hi, and good evening, and thanks so much for having us. I represent Doctors Without Borders, the largest independent humanitarian medical organization in the world, and we bring our assistance in conflicts, natural disasters, and epidemics in about 70 countries. Disasters, whether man-made, like the conflict in Syria, or whether natural ones, like the Haitian earthquake or the Ebola outbreaks that were in West Africa last year, are clearly on the rise and creating greater and greater need. And what we've seen is that the existing system is no longer capable of responding to those needs. On top of that, we have 65 million people displaced and refugees around the world, and several 100 million more at risk of natural disasters. So what do we need to do? Well, what we need to do is what Singularity is doing. We need to look at new ways of responding. We need to look at new partnerships and new technologies. In my own organization, Doctors Without Borders, we started after our Nobel Prize win an organization called Drugs for Neglected Diseases. And this organization brought together universities, governments, researchers, pharmaceutical companies, and ourselves. And we brought a whole new way of bringing molecules to market. In 10 years, we've been able to bring 6 new treatments for diseases like Chagas and malaria to market for much less than the standard and regular cost. And all of this has been done open source. Buoyed by that success, we are now launching a transformational investment capacity and will be run out of Toronto at Doctors Without Borders, where we've been spearheading e-learning and telemedical technologies and bringing them to all of our different fields in times of disaster. Singularity has been a great help to us in that, by opening up a whole new area of innovations, by helping us future forecast, and by also inviting us here to develop a whole new series of contacts with practitioners. And for that, we're very thankful.
The decision that Stephen and I had on evaluating the people who are competing for the Disaster Resiliency Prize was intense. We had a lot of discussion about it, but our winner is GeoCosmo. Please join us.
We're very, very pleased to welcome GeoCosmo. Their initiative brought together a number of things that we judged were absolutely essential in this area. And what we saw was they've brought a tectonic or a seismic shift, if you like, to seismology by combining regular geophysics, subparticle physics, along with an exponential use of telecommunication technologies and satellite technologies. And they've been able to change the whole paradigm in a field that when I went to school and studied global risk and crisis management, we were told you couldn't predict earthquakes, you could only forecast them. And without further ado, I want to turn it over to the guy who's going to tell us how we've moved from forecasting to actual predictions to save lives and empower first responders.
Thank you very much. The Earth speaks to us. Gaia speaks to us. Gaia speaks to us through subatomic particles when it comes to earthquake. 2, 3, 4 weeks before an earthquake strikes, subatomic particles emanate through the Earth, come to us, and we can read them. I don't have very much time to talk about the really cool stuff that we're doing, so I want to invite you to our table at the expo to meet the scientists, the physicists from NASA, from SETI, from PUCP, who are actually forecasting 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance actual earthquakes up to the hour. I want to invite you to our table and talk to us about our satellite technology, about our ground sensor technology, about our phone technology, about how we are able to, within an hour, within 2 hours, within 3 hours, to actually know when an earthquake is going to happen 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance. I want you to come to our table to meet Dr. Jorge Herod, who's going to show you a video of actual earthquakes happening 20, 30, 40 miles below the Earth's surface as they're emanating. And we know when they're going to happen. We're batting 20 for 20 right now. I'd love for you to come and see them. But most importantly, the technology is really cool. But what's most important is I want you to come and talk to us about your creating your global earthquake forecasting service. A service that's going to get people out of their homes. It's going to get nuclear power plants to shut down smoothly, to get oil and gas systems to stop the flow of oil for a little while, of gasoline for a little while. A service that is going to get ships out to sea from port. A service that is going to get miners out of mines, to get tourists and locals off of the beaches, to get emergency services into the area ahead of time. After the disaster, it's really hard. Let's get them in early. I want you to come to talk to us, to show us your ideas about how to take our cellular technology and make it better, about how to make our algorithms better, about how to make your earthquake forecasting service global and big and real. And I want to say thank you so much for this honor. We're honored. Come and talk to us. We're giving a presentation tomorrow. You're going to see the video. You're going to be blown away. These are actual earthquakes that are 20, 30, and 40 miles below the surface, and they're happening. Come to our table and talk to us. Thank you. This is Dr. Friedman Freud. 40 years ago, he discovered this idea about the subatomic particles and these positive holes. And I just want to thank you, Friedman, for all of the work you've done over these last 40 years. Good work.
Yeah, and I should...
Thank you.
I've been working on this topic for many, many years, coming from a completely different background. Never thought that I would end up doing something in the area of earthquake systems. And then I was joined with my son, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago from a brain tumor. He was a director at NASA Ames, and he and I developed most of the physics that led to today. Thank you so much.